It's important to not just understand how a study is made and how to draw conclusions from one, but also whether or not you should actually believe a statistical study. So I already sort of hinted at one thing that you should pay attention to is sort of how the sample, like who makes up the sample and like how it was chosen. Along with that, one of the sort of key things we're going to look at is this notion of bias. Is there a bias? Now, let's be clear. All studies have bias. That's why we have a margin of error. It's just sort of the nature of the game. But your goal or the goal of the researcher is always to try and minimize that bias. Now, there are going to be sort of two sort of types of biases that are easy to avoid. The first is known as a selection bias. It's when you pick a group of people and it's really not representative of your larger population. Maybe it's you're trying to make some conclusions about Chandler Gilbert college students, but you only end up selecting people in your survey who are all 18-year-old college students. That wouldn't be a very good selection of the general population of the student body at Chandler Gilbert. Another one is a participation bias. This is when a study it happens when people make the choice to participate. And you might be going, what do you mean by that? Think about like when you go to Target or other stores, sometimes you'll be asked, will you complete this online survey for us? That would have a participation bias because most of us are going to choose to not actually do the little online survey. And so you're not going to get necessarily a good sampling of the general population. Another good example of somewhere which is probably going to have both a selection bias and a participation bias is like our online, like Twitter type polls. Notice, I just pulled this random poll and it says, are hurricanes due to global warming or just Mother Nature? And according to this sort of Twitter poll, 71% of people out there believe it's just Mother Nature. Can I make a conclusion based off that? No, because I would have to, you're going to have a very limited sort of audience to this particular Twitter poll. Not only does it limited to people who are on Twitter, but then also people who follow progress polls and people who chose to actually participate. Nor do I have any clue what sort of population you want to study or like what was the purpose of asking this question besides just trying to get people to click on your poll. There are other things you sort of want to look for when you're debating whether or not you should believe a statistical study. Did they define sort of what are they asking? Is the question or wording confusing? Did they make conclusions? Are they able to? So there's lots of different things that you should look for when you're sort of thinking about the validity. I like to say go in with a mind of a skeptic. Don't just believe those like eye-grabbing headlines that, are trying to make you click on an article. Is there really the justification to back it up? Is the research there? Does the study make sense? Who's paying for the study? All those sorts of things you want to sort of keep in mind as you think about, was this a valid study and should I believe it?